Da-da-da! Welcome, folks, back to another edition of The Incredible Hoax. Coming to you, not in 3D, because who needs it, really? It's a fan. It'll be here today, gone tomorrow.
We can only hope.
We can only hope. I am Mark Hoke, movie enthusiast, writer-composer, joined by my lovely friend.
Lovely. Chris Hoke, writer for Cowboy Lucky on Red Sea TV.
And sometimes director and editor as well.
Well, hell, I ain't sometimes on the editor part. I'm pretty much more of an editor now than a writer. So, yeah.
Yeah, you seldom get to leave the Batcave.
No, yeah, we're stuck in the Beat Laboratory.
Oh. Well, you know, it's that holiday time of year, and we're
Right.
a movie talk show. We
Right.
thought we'd kind of maybe analyze just kind of some of the good holiday movies that have come out over the years.
Right.
You know, let's start with the most recent. It was Thanksgiving not too long ago. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. When it came out,
Yes.
it was a John Hughes picture, and at first you're like, well, maybe this is just a contemporary movie. You like it today. Maybe it won't have any longevity. But as it turns out, that is one of his films that has longevity. I would dare say it's probably my favorite John Hughes movie.
I'd say it's easily my favorite John Hughes movie. You know, I have not ever been a big fan of the teen angst movies. That it's not just him. I just don't like that subgenre or whatever you call it.
Right.
I'm not interested in teen angst. Even when I was a teenager, I wasn't interested in teen angst. And so I've never snatched on the 16 Candles and all those kind of movies. And I haven't even seen. And there's a bunch of them you'd be surprised I haven't even seen.
I've never seen Pretty in Pink, and I know that's like terrible to admit that, but I've not.
I know that's another one of those movies that I'm ashamed to admit on some level as a movie buff.
Well, I get that all the time from some friends. They're like, "Well, aren't you the '80s guy? You've not seen that many Molly Ringwald movies?" No, I thought that was like girly stuff. You know.
Yeah, I never dug all that.
I never got into all that.
Yeah. I watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High as an adult.
I did see that.
You know, years later, I watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is not a Hughes movie.
No.
But it's kind of thrown in that same mix. And it's horrible. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is freaking horrible. If it wasn't for Sean Penn, there'd be nothing redeemable in that movie. That's the only thing I liked about that movie was Sean Penn. It was a horrible movie.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as call it horrible, but I would say it's overrated for what it is.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah,
because people kind of talk as if it's like the gold standard of like high school movies, and I'm like, well, even Rebel Without a Cause, don't get me started on how much I think that movie's overrated.
Yeah.
You know, all due respect to the talents of Natalie Wood and was it James Dean, but still, I mean. Definitive high school movie all time, Fast Times? No, I don't go there.
You know, you could probably make the argument that I don't relate to those movies.
Me neither.
And you can make the argument that you know, we didn't have the normal teenage experience, which we didn't.
We did not.
Without getting into a whole bunch of drama and everything.
You don't want to hear it, folks.
You don't want to hear the story. But we didn't really have the normal American teenage experience, you know, you and I.
Right.
So maybe that's why we don't connect with that. But I don't connect. You know, bring it back to John Hughes. I just don't connect. Ferris Bueller's Day Off I love because it's a comedy. It's not like a teen angst movie. It's a comedy. It has teen angst elements in it, but it's basically a comedy. And I like that movie for that reason, you know, on that level. But the worst parts of the movie are the teen angst moments. You know, that's those parts to me are just, you know, excruciating.
Well, if I had to, like, gun to my head and say, okay, I have to pick like a teenager movie that kind of fits teenagers the best, or it would have to be Whisper from the Heart, which is an anime movie of all things. It's a Japanese anime movie, Whisper from the Heart, and that would be what I would recommend.
You know what?
Not even a live action movie.
I take it back. I take back something I said. I'll take it back. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I will not call horrible. I didn't like it, but I won't call it horrible.
Okay.
But The Breakfast Club, that movie is freaking horrible. The Breakfast Club is, oh God, I don't.
It's kind of preachy, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yes. Extremely so.
Yeah, I was like, what's with all the preaching?
It's
going
extremely preachy. It's very. It's just. It's talking heads. There's nothing subtle about it. It bangs its message into you without any semblance of subtlety. Which, if anybody's watched the show, that's a big issue with me.
Yeah.
And Breakfast Club is horrible. Horrible movie. Fast Times at Ridgemont High I just didn't like. But The Breakfast Club is freaking horrible. So I'll amend my statement on Breakfast Club, or Fast Times.
Well, we've covered high school movies and Thanksgiving. And what about...
I didn't mean to go on a tangent about teenage movies.
Yeah, no, that was cool. We hadn't had a chance to go over that. What are some other holiday films thinking about? Well, Groundhog Day. I mean, that's kind of a strange holiday, but
it's a unique one.
But it's a unique one. I don't know that anyone gets a day off for that. Not even the post office, I don't think. But the movie Groundhog Day is really a comic classic, I think.
Yeah. I saw that at the movies when it came out. When Groundhog Day came out, I went with a friend. I don't know what year that came out, a teenager of some sort.
What, 92, 93, something like
there.
that?
And I went and saw it, and we liked it. And after it was over, we're like, that was a good movie. And we sort of dismissed it. And now it's like this sort of, it's a modern classic, if you will. But, in all honesty, back then it was not. It was just a comedy.
It was just another Bill Murray comedy.
So it's funny how Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which you mentioned, and you suggested as much, and Groundhog Day both share that same. When they came out, they were just sort of they were good.
Just another contemporary comedy hit.
Now they're like, God, those are classic movies.
Yeah.
All this. So I wonder if It's a Wonderful Life and some of those movies went through the same. Went through the same process of when they came out, they're going, yeah, they're okay. And then later on, they're like, oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
And then to be classic.
Yeah. Well,
I wonder.
I think It's a Wonderful Life was seen as a box office disappointment.
Right. Heard that.
And it was, right after World War II, and people were into, I think, more escapism at the time. And if you've ever seen It's a Wonderful Life, for the one person out there that hasn't, it actually gets really dark. Because people kind of think, oh, it's a wonderful life. But no, it actually gets very dark. That whole sequence where he sees how life would be without him.
Yeah.
And I don't think people coming out of World War II were just really wanting to see something like that. To us, it's extremely tame. But if you can imagine in 1946, that was very heavy material for the day. So sometimes it's timing, is my point.
I don't know. Who knows what the mentality was back then? I mean, it's a classic. The worst thing that happened in that movie was the whole period where nobody owns the rights to it. So they got overplayed.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess now somebody owns the rights.
I think NBC does, yeah.
And that's the best thing that could have happened to it, because it got overdone. And it sort of became meaningless, And it's kind of like Elvis. I have this theory on Elvis. You want to hear my Elvis theory?
Yes, I want to hear this, yes.
My Elvis theory is he really was great. And he really did play good music. But because of the fans and because of the overuse of his music in commercials and TV shows, nobody appreciates him like he should be appreciated anymore.
Right.
And if you were to take a... if you're to abstain from Elvis music for a few years, when you finally hear it again with fresh ears, you're like, oh, God, he was really good. But now he's kind of a joke because he's been overdone.
Right.
But the same thing happened to It's a Wonderful Life. I think it's good, it's great, but it got to a point where people were all like, God, it's Wonderful Life, they roll their eyes. And it's like, no, it's a really good movie. It's not its fault it got overplayed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I think, if I haven't mentioned on this show before, he knows I've said this several times, there are like three kinds of segment of fans that do more to not help
their
cause, and those are Star Trek fans, baseball fans, and Elvis Presley fans.
Right.
Those three, it's like you do more to hurt your cause than anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, Elvis Presley fans, they're just dress up in the impersonations and stuff
Yeah.
like that. They're weird. It's like y'all know
It
y'all are
alienates.
weird.
It
You
alienates
alienate.
other people.
And even Star Trek fans. I mean, you'll have the segment who'll name their kids, Data 6, and
Yeah.
where it's like,
Or
really?
have cosmetic surgery for the ears.
For the ears, or or show up to jury duty in their Star Trek uniform. Swear to God, that has happened. I mean, that's just going overboard.
Yeah.
That's just weird.
Yeah.
But getting back to holiday movies, though. But yeah, sometimes contemporary films can. At the time, you're like, well, that was good, and then years later, you're like, wow, that was really good.
That was really good.
I do think there is some revisionist history with certain movies, and we've talked about that before with those frat movies.
Yes.
Like Animal House
And Caddyshack.
and Caddyshack. We're like, oh, those are classics. Like, no, you just remember where you were. They were probably in high school or college, and it meant something to them, so they've kind of esteemed it higher.
Well, I think there's that. Plus, there's certain movies like you're supposed to like. It's like cool to like them. It's
Yes,
like,
yes.
It's like it's kind of the same thing with bands and songs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'll go ahead and go out there and say it. Leonard Skinner. They really have like one song, but it's like cool. Yeah, Skinner. It's like no, really, they just got one song. You're not a Skinner fan. It's just one song. That's all really anybody ever cares about.
Right.
After that, it's who cares. But it's cool to say you're a Skinner fan. It makes you some sort of like you're part of this little group or whatever. It's like no, well then name something besides Sweet Home Alabama. Name something besides Freebird, and they're like, there's nothing they can say.
Yeah.
They have nothing to say after that.
Now, see, I'm like a student of music, so I could, but don't count me. The average Joe that you're talking about, they're like,
It's the same thing.
Other than those two, they don't have no idea.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing as with these movies. Like, yeah, Caddyshack. It's like, really? So remember the whole part where he had to like get money for an abortion? That was one of your favorite parts? Because that's in the movie.
Yeah,
that's in the movie.
That's right over their head. They're like, that was in there. I'm like, never mind.
That's really in the movie. I mean, if you don't take my word for it, it's in there.
Well, that movie's just. I don't get it. I just don't get it, and I don't care to get it. You know, I'm totally fine with being like the outsider on that. It's like if y'all want to think that Caddyshack's like one of the top 5 great
then
comedies,
go for it.
God bless you,
I can't
whatever.
relate with
But
that.
I can't relate to you. Sorry,
Yeah.
And going back to the whole Elvis Presley analogy, I think Elvis Presley is one of the top 5 great voices ever in rock and roll.
I love it.
history.
I've been to Graceland. I love Elvis. But
Elvis is freaking awesome, but I'm not going to dress up like him and do these
I'm not one of those
impersonations.
weird fans that has pictures of him up and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to have like an
No.
altar in my room
No.
and set up with a picture and lights on it, heavenly lights shown at the picture. I'm not going to go that far. He was one hell of a great talent and
Hell of a showman.
hell of a showman and performer. And but let's just keep it at that, can't we?
Keep it real.
Yeah. I mean, the guy had his flaws, and he'd admit to them.
Yeah. I mean,
Everything I've read on him, he knew he was a flawed human being and wished he could have been more.
more for his daughter and things like that.
Yeah, he could. Because anywhere he went, he couldn't go outside his house without getting just mauled by people. So he was kind of trapped by his fame.
Right.
So you overly zealous fans, you might think about that.
Right.
Okay.
What other holiday?
Well, Christmas is coming. I've always loved the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol, and I know I'm cheating. That's really a TV film, but.
Well, yeah, it's not to me. It's not cheating because to me it's the only version of A Christmas Carol. I don't even watch. I won't entertain the other ones because they suck in comparison. Because George C. Scott, man, is the ultimate Scrooge.
Yeah, it was just
It's got great production value.
Yeah.
The set design and everything. It's really, really, really dark, but not in a bad way.
When you had great supporting actors as well, David Warner, he's actually a good guy.
Yeah.
For people that know from the 70s and 80s, he just played one of the great villains He was just
He
one
was
of the
a villain
great.
all the time.
He was a villain all the
Time
time.
Bandits and Tron.
Tron he was rarely got to be a good guy. He was a good guy in The Omen, by the way. Yes.
Got his head chopped off.
Yeah, there's a great story behind all that, but maybe for another time. But yeah, that was a great one. I'm trying to think of other Christmas movies that are specifically like for Christmas. But Elf with Will Ferrell. I thought that was really good.
That's another one of those that's becoming kind of a modern classic. People liked it when it came out, and it's just started growing and growing and growing. Elf is a good one. Christmas Carol is my favorite with George C. Scott. But then again, there's these other holiday movies that I associate with Christmas. Die Hard. To me, Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I love watching Die Hard at Christmas time.
Well, the first Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
There's that whole thing about
the
ending and I'll be home for Christmas.
Yeah, and this is really strange. Now this is really strange. I love watching the Godfather movies around Christmas time. They're not Christmas movies, and I think one of them has a Christmas scene in it. In one of them, the first two, I can't remember. Yeah. So there's something about when it's cold. And
good wintry movies.
There's just these winter type movies.
Goodfellas is like that because they have a scene where it has Christmas in there.
Yeah. To me, Christmas movies, holiday movies are more associative than topical. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it doesn't have to necessarily be a Santa Claus movie.
Yes, yeah. I like for instance, Die Hard is not necessarily a Christmas movie, but it takes place at Christmas, and I've just always liked watching it around Christmas time. It's associative. A topical Christmas movie would be like A Christmas Story and Home Alone and those types.
Or the Nativity Story. The Catherine Hardwicke. She directed the first Twilight. That one actually is worth. It's a good movie, worth checking out.
So I like watching the ones that maybe. I guess I like the holiday movies that to me I associate with a feeling.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Like that's in the background while the story's being played out.
Exactly. Not so much wanting to watch movies that like show me Christmas, but make me feel like Christmas. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, because Die Hard did that better than any movie because he shows up and it's the Christmas party's going on, and then there's the scene in the end where he's down to like 2 bullets left. So he's got 3. It's like there's 3 villains, but he doesn't have quite enough bullets. Yeah. So he's trying to figure out what to do. Then he sees the duct tape, and all of a sudden you hear the jingle bells going off. Yeah. You gotta love that because they're incorporating the whole seasonal music into the score. For God's sakes, it was so clever. Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah.
And now I have a machine gun. Ho ho ho.
Yes. Yes.
And then, and then Alan Rickman goes, "No, I have a machine gun." Oh. And I always loved the way he said that. Yeah. He didn't really say ho ho. He said oh.
Well, he's one of those guys like David Warner who just plays great villains.
Yeah.
Really,
I wish I could be more of a Harry Potter fan. I'd appreciate it more. But I just can't get over.
Well, he's great. Yeah.
I know. I'd probably I would have a more fulfilling life if I would just get over my problem with Harry Potter. But I just can't get over my issues with Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So.
Well. Just so they know, we won't be doing a review of the newest one.
Have we talked about Harry Potter in the show?
Yeah, a bit, because you were just saying that the whole idea of fantasy movies, and you were using Harry Potter.
Yeah, fantasy movies don't appeal to me, which is strange because Star Wars is my favorite movie ever, but I've never saw the fantasy movie. I don't know why. And Harry Potter, here's the brief thing. My biggest beef against Harry Potter, or there's 2. 1, Harry Potter never does anything. Never. He never ever does anything. Ever. He's always a victim. It always happens to him. He never takes charge.
Right.
And then 2, as soon as the movies are over, I don't remember anything that just happened.
Yeah.
It's over. It does not have any lasting effect for me. None. I can't tell you anything about Harry Potter now. And I haven't watched them all, but the ones I have seen, I can't tell you anything about them. Nothing. It's gone.
Yeah. Well, it's the difference between someone telling a story that's very kind of a singular story, if you will. Here is the Potter story, and what takes him from being kind of the boy who doesn't know anything about magic, to going mano a mano with Voldemort. That's what you were looking for. But instead, she kind of does this kind of Harry Potter extended universe thing, played out over 8 movies, where you got all these other characters, the Weasleys, you get to know all them. And you're like, I totally don't care. When is Potter going to kick ass?
Well, yeah.
That's what you're wanting to know.
Well, it's the same thing, the same beef we have with the prequels, the Star Wars prequels. We wanted to see Vader killing everybody.
Yeah.
As Vader, with the black costume and mask.
Right.
In my mind, the whole third Star Wars should have been Vader as Vader with his lightsaber just hacking the living hell out of Jedi's, throwing them through windows.
Right.
I mean, just single-handed bloodbath.
It should have been like Vader, not Anakin, but Vader Anakin in the costume, and him against like 100 of the Jedi walking the palace, and he's like force pushing people, Sith lightning,
like picking up somebody and crushing them
and throwing them over here, and it should have been that kind of a movie where you're like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? And it just really show how powerful it is. Instead, it kind of wimps out with this whole. What was the thing Emperor told the stormtroopers? Execute Project 66 or something like that. Order 66.
Yeah.
And you're like, really? That's such a cop-out,
Yeah.
It's like, that worked in RoboCop, but here it's such a cop-out,
Yeah. It was not. I don't know. What it promised to be and what it was were 2 different things. Right?
Right.
And same thing with Harry Potter. Harry Potter is the chosen one wizard, and he never does anything.
Well, the big mistake of the prequels, I don't think we've talked about it on the show, but I think the mistake of the prequels was him thinking people would be that interested in getting to know like a good Anakin. We were not.
No.
We were not at all. What we wanted to see was a young Vader kicking ass. Let's be honest. That's what I wanted to see.
He was trying to make that the point that even brutal dictators are humans too, and something has to happen to them. And I know Hitler was a little boy at one time.
Right.
But I don't want to know the little bastard. He was evil.
Well, I knew that the prequels were in danger when the first one, Phantom Menace,
was a little kid.
Yeah, he's like 8 or 9 or something like that. And you're like, well, whoa.
And he was in big trouble when the midichlorians showed up.
Yeah, no one liked that. Well, and the whole Jar Jar thing, you're like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
I can forgive Jar Jar. The biggest mistake of the prequels was not enough Vader as Vader. I could have handled the first 2 as they were if he'd have paid off with a full Vader in the third.
Right. Instead of the last 2 minutes.
Yes.
Here he is. Oh no! And then roll credits.
I could live with what he did on those first 2 if he'd have just done that, and he didn't. And he screwed it up big time.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what he should have done on the prequels was literally when you saw him, he should have been like maybe 16 years old, already a teenager.
Yeah.
And you could have just done it in dialogues like, oh yeah, I found him on blah, blah, blah. You don't need to know all this other stuff, It's just have him 16-year-old. He's a little punk teenager, and he goes on an adventure. And then I would have had I heard it suggested through the internet. And I think that was the right way to go. Go ahead and let there be a love triangle between Padme, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. That way there would have created this tension that you would have it would have been universal. We would have totally got that and understood the resentment. And then, of course, Anakin wins her, but he's still jealous, and that just drives him over the edge. And then through after the battle, he comes back as Vader, and he whoops butt for the next movie or 2.
And another problem is with the Phantom Menace. The first one is the introduction of Anakin doesn't come until 45 minutes to an hour into it.
In Phantom Menace?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well into the movie.
It's not the first act.
No, it's in
he should have been introduced in the first act. They should have just got Tatooine a lot quicker, or change the story up or something. The finding of Anakin should have been more a focal point. They just sort of happen across him. Right. It's just almost on their little adventure, and he's just another guy they pick up along the way. Like one of the Scarecrow, the Lion, or the Tin Man.
And I think everyone's agreed on this, because I have friends I talk about this all the time. And I don't want to heap more onto the fire of this, but I think we could all just... God loved Jake Lloyd, but he was a terrible actor.
Yeah.
He was terrible.
He was horrible.
He was horrible. And I think just... Sometimes you just cast somebody who looks the part, and you think you can make it work. It didn't work. He was terrible.
Yeah, he was absolutely freaking horrible. Absolutely horrible.
And so if you would have liked the kid's performance, you just can't... When you can't watch that movie, and he's just... You could tell he's just reading his lines. You know, should I go or should I stay? It's like, well, is this a song from The Clash? I mean, what are you doing?
It was like
weird.
If anybody's out there is watching this has not watched the Red Letter Media, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, the Red Letter Media website's reviews of Star Wars. Go watch the Phantom Menace review they did. It's that might be my video pick of the week, is to go watch their review.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly worth taking an hour or two going through those.
Yeah,
it'll change your way you look at the prequels.
It's Red Letter Media. Just Google Red Letter Media, and on their website you'll see the reviews of the prequels. Well, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and watch the Phantom Menace one, and he picks it apart brilliantly, as good as anybody can do, and he deconstructs and he shows vividly what's wrong with that movie.
Yeah.
And one of the reason I bring that up is one of the things he says. He shows a clip of Jake Lloyd's acting, and he stops it and he goes, "And this was the best take."
Yeah.
I mean, and he made a great point there. It's like, really, you couldn't get another take out of this kid? You know, coach him a little better than that.
Yeah. He was terrible.
Yeah.
Because if you actually go on to the I think it's the DVDs themselves of the Phantom Menace. They have like all these like behind the scenes featurettes. They actually show it came down to 3 kids, and you see portions of their audition versus Jake Lloyd. Well, there's this one kid. I'd give him credit if I remember his name. This blonde kid. He looks more like Mark Hamill, a young Mark Hamill, and he's like playing it. You could tell this kid. Yeah, maybe he's being a little too serious for the part, maybe, that what Lucas wanted, but you could tell the kid could act. It's like, well, yeah, I could see this kid. He's kind of intense. That little bastard, he can be Vader.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like, no, he's too intense. We got to go with the little young, cute and cuddly Jake Lloyd. It's like, yeah, but he can't act.
And that's the thing. See, that's the whole problem with the prequels. Whenever he had a choice to make between intensity and cute and cuddly, he went with cute and cuddly every time.
That's right.
That's the fundamental problem right there.
Right. And
it's like, and he claims like, well, the originals were never meant for adults. They were always meant for kids. All of them were meant for kids. It's like, no. Other than the Ewoks, they were not meant for kids.
Well, you know, this is a good time for a segue into the fact Irvin Kershner, director of Empire Strikes Back, just passed away earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Sent out some tributes to him, directing one of the great sequels of all time, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
He brought an intensity and a seriousness and that dramatic. He really upped the ante, frankly, for the whole franchise. Yeah. And so he will be missed. Loved what he did in that film, and so Irvin Kershner. I salute you.
Well, I guess back to holiday. We got way off field on holidays.
Well, there's not much as far as holidays left. I mean, we've not really seen like the Labor Day movie yet. You see movies where they'll do like Road Trip or something like that for like spring break vacations type stuff.
There is a movie for the 4th of July.
The one, though, that I was thinking of, which I know you can't stand, is Independence Day. Yeah, we did a show about a month ago where we did about 15 minutes on that. Yeah. Let's just say we don't agree.
Watch Born on the 4th of July with Oliver Stone. Watch that one instead. Yeah, watch Tom Cruise in Born on July. That's a better Independence Day movie.
I love that movie, too. That's a great, outstanding movie. Yeah. With Tom Cruise. Yeah. Oliver Stone, but I recommend, Independence Day. I love that movie. It's a great movie. Crowd pleaser.
Well, -1.
Minus you, of course. But you know, there's been a lot of Valentine's movies recently in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a one of them. I mean, they actually called one a year ago Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that was one that had like all these stars in it.
Yeah, you have all these like stars, and I'm just like, a chick movie. I really have to see this. I mean, you really have to kind of. I have to admit, folks, you have to kind of pull me kicking and screaming to go see a chick movie. I'm sorry, ladies. I should be a little more open to the romance movies.
No, I'm not big on them either. I mean, I'm
a lot
married.
of them are disposable, you know.
I'm married and got kids, and I'm supposed to be like, oh, you need to like, no. I don't dig the whole romantic movie crap. It's not where I ever. Just doesn't interest me.
Well,
I'm not a romantic, you know.
Well, see, that's what's ironic. I am a romantic.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff it just wears on you because it's just so.
Well, it's usually very
predictable and pedestrian.
Yeah.
There was that one with Kate Beckinsale and John Cusack.
That would be.
That would have been
weird. Interesting. It was Joan
that
Cusack.
Serendipity movie. That was one of the last ones I was bothered by friends to go see it. Yeah, so I went and saw it, and I'm like, I've never seen a woman try so hard to get rid of a guy.
And he just couldn't get the hint.
And, I mean, she puts this letter in a book, and then years later he finds the book, and then somehow by all these chain of events, which is just so implausible, they finally find one another.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why didn't you just give him the wrong phone number? If you weren't interested. I mean, it was just kind of weird.
I remember that movie, but I never saw. That's one I never saw. A romantic type movie, you're not really going to. I'm not in no hurry to watch those movies. And, the only movies about relationships I really care to watch are the ones that are, really, really analyze a relationship. Like Closer. I mean, I thought the movie Closer with Natalie Portman and Jude Law was, a really, really good movie because it really looked at relationships on a very primal level.
Yeah.
It wasn't a feel-good romantic movie.
Well, yeah, that was a mature drama.
And those I can handle.
Real situations, not all this prefab stuff.
Those I can handle, but the ones with the meet cute and all the characters have to do is say the right thing and everything will be fixed. I hate those movies. I hate movies. Chick flicks and romance movies do this a lot. There will come a point in the movie where all the character has to go is like, wait. Look, I really, that really was not my girlfriend. We were just pretending because I wanted to go out with you so bad.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I shouldn't have misled you that way.
Yeah.
And if that's all they said, it'd be okay. But that comes that moment, they'll always go, and the person will just go, and then walk out. And it's like, if you had just said at that moment, and then there'll be in the third act, they're going to get on a plane, and they comically stop the plane and board it, and then they're like, and then they never really explain all the bullshit, excuse me, but they never really explain all the shenanigans that they had done to get to that point. At that point, they just say, I love you, and I've always loved you, and I'll take my whole life and make it up to you. And they go, oh, I love you too, and it's all over. It's like, why didn't you just explain your shenanigans at that moment?
Right.
Because you still haven't explained those. It's frustrating.
Right.
It frustrates the hell out of me watching movies like that. Because all they got to do is say that one thing to fix stuff. I hate it.
And you see that in a lot of movies because it almost sounds like you were describing the plot of Wedding Singer. It's like,
and about a million others.
And a million others. Yeah, the movie The Bounty Hunter with Gerard Butler, Jennifer Aniston. It's so clear that the Aniston and Butler characters were once married, so they're divorced.
Right.
It's clear they both have residual feelings or whatever. But throughout the movie, it is so clear he drives her crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, I care about you on one level, but you can kind of tell, for the most part, it's like you drive me too crazy to spend the rest of my life with you.
Right.
That kind of a thing. And so you're watching this going, well, but you're Jennifer Aniston. Why are you And you don't have to.
You don't have to settle.
How many movies have you seen where you're looking at somebody who is frankly as gorgeous as Jennifer Aniston and going, I don't buy. Then you're having to settle then for this punk.
Yeah.
If you think he's a punk or a jerk or whatever, you're Jennifer Aniston. You can have anybody.
Yeah.
You don't have to be with that jerk. But in the movie, it's like, no, they have to somehow work it out.
Yeah.
She somehow has to just kind of put up with his little juvenile hijinks. And you're like, on what planet does that ever work? I mean, that just...
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
The movie Wedding Crashers was brilliant because there was a moment in the movie where he has to explain himself to her. And he starts to. But that movie was brilliant because it set up a situation where his explanation was not going to help.
Mm.
You know, when he had to explain to her, look, we crash weddings, and I really am not this guy, and we do it just to get chicks. And he starts to explain it, and it just makes things worse.
Yeah.
Because that movie was beautifully constructed to put him in that situation where an explanation was not going to fix it. It was going to have to be fixed by just their pure love for one another.
Right.
And that was the only thing that was going to fix that situation. That movie was brilliant for that reason.
Yeah.
As opposed to countless millions of movies.
Yeah.
That all they have to do is say, no, wait. I misled you. You got this all misunderstood.
Right.
And they don't do it. I can't take it. I hate it. I can't take it.
Well, one thing that is true and is universal is between the sexes, sometimes we do speak a different language. So I know there is some truth to sometimes the communication, the lack thereof. Communication is what sometimes is usually the main reason why relationships fall apart. I get that, you get that, but what they're doing is
they're manipulating that.
They kind of manipulate things to where things in real life you would say.
Right.
But they just kind of delete that. It's like, but it doesn't feel it doesn't feel honest. It doesn't feel that it's a true representation of a relationship. Because you know that in real life you'd say certain things. You try to anyways.
Yeah, exactly. You try to explain yourself.
Right.
You know? In fact, in real life, as opposed to the movies, in real life, people tend to go overboard explaining themselves.
Right.
As opposed to the movies, they never explain themselves.
Right.
And in real life, you tend to overdo it. And, like, no, wait. And then you call them like, no, I really need to make sure you understand. And then you write them an email, I think you misunderstood. And then you blog, I think she misunderstood. And then you Facebook status, I think I was misunderstood. Yeah. And we overdo it in real life. In movies, they never do that. So we just meet in the middle. Somewhere in between.
and there are times in a relationship, and you folks at home, if you've dated any at all, then you know that sometimes one party, just for whatever their reasons, is really, they're kind of done. They've already checked out. Right. So any explanation you give, they've kind of...
It's meaningless.
Yeah, it's meaningless. They're on down the road. That happens, but let's be honest, usually most situations, they will hear you out. They still may not help, but most, it's really the exceptions where people don't hear you out.
Well, I think I might be a little different than some people. It's because I have always been pretty blunt with how I feel about things in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's when I stop talking that it gets real scary. Okay? That's, well, you know this as well as I do.
Yeah.
I pretty much tell you what I'm feeling in that moment.
Right.
And it's always out there. You don't have to worry too much about me holding something in because it comes out pretty... And I've done that with my wife for years. And sometimes it doesn't work, but 90% of the time, it's all good. Me doing that, okay?
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I'm one of those people that when I stop talking, there's problems.
Right.
Okay? So I guess having said that, that's the reason why I can't relate with those movies so much. Is because my tendency is to, if you hurt my feelings, I want to say, look, that sucked. You hurt my feelings. You should have done it. You were wrong. And, movies just don't go that way.
Which, on this subject, it's going to make for now a perfect segue into my movie rental suggestion now that I think of it.
Okay. Now that we've blathered a lot about relationships and everything else.
Hey, we covered some holiday movies in there.
Yeah. Well, holidays are about relationships.
Yeah, and we mentioned Valentine's Day. We don't have any that we particularly like.
Can't think of a Valentine's Day movie.
But the one I'm going to rent is a movie that would feel more like my kind of Valentine's movie.
What's that?
My movie rental suggestion is The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Directed by Michael Gondry and stars Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie. If you've not seen it, it is a mature examination of relationships between men and women. It really is. Don't let the fact that the story is kind of out of sequence throw you. Stay with it, folks. It's worth your time.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's a great film, great performances, and that's so great too. We were just talking about relationships. That was a perfect segue into that rental suggestion.
And I would throw out there, then stick with relationships. One that pops into my head. There's not a whole lot of relationships movies I care about, but this is one of the ones that has always kind of stuck with me. Is High Fidelity. With you mentioned John Cusack. You remember High Fidelity?
I do.
High Fidelity is one that I always liked because it's women. If you want to know what men think, rent High Fidelity. If women are going like, I wonder what men really think, High Fidelity. High Fidelity. There's your answer. That movie explains it. And don't get me wrong when I say that. It's not like it makes a big excuse for men and some of their idiosyncrasies. I mean, it's an examination.
Sure.
And John Cusack, has to grow and learn. But
right.
But it is very, very true and real to what men really are thinking.
Yeah.
In relationships. So
Well, I like that.
we're gonna that one highlight.
The soundtrack's worth a listen too.
And Jack Black before he was really big, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just that's a really good movie. High Fidelity.
Yeah.
So that's a good one.
Yeah. Did Stephen Frears do that one? The guy who made Grifters and Crying Game? No, wait.
I don't think he
Crying
did.
Game's not the same guy. Crying Game, that was
That
was not Stephen Frears.
That was the guy that did Interview with the Man.
Yeah, all right, my bad. Okay, Stephen Frears did the Grifters, and I'm pretty sure he did High Fidelity.
It's not Neil Taylor.
Neil Jordan.
Neil Jordan, thank you.
Okay, forget I said that. Okay, the guy who did the Grifters did High Fidelity. The guy that did Crying Game is Neil Jordan, and he did Interview with the Vampire and all that other stuff.
A bunch of other stuff, yeah.
All right, forget I said that.
Hey, we sorted it out. Okay, we've done movie reel suggestions, so now we conclude with our quote of the week. Last week's was, "Don't push that baby in the Savior's face. He'll touch it later." So, if you answered by saying Monty Python's Life of Brian, you were right. It's kind of a throwaway in the movie. The line's kind of a throwaway in the movie, but it's a funny line. This week's quote of the week, I'm going to do this one because it's one of my favorite quotes ever. So this one is a real easy one if you've been watching movies at all the last 30 years. So here you are. This is like my early holiday present to you. I'm ready to kick your ass out of the world, war hero. One more time. I'm ready to kick your ass out of the world, war hero.
All right.
So if you can guess that one.
That's another wintry movie for me.
Really? Well, don't tell me what it is, but...
No, let me see.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the right one I'm thinking of. Yeah, to me, I always think it's a cold weather movie to me. It's not, there's no cold weather in the movie.
No.
So I'm not giving any away.
No.
So just to me, it's a cold weather movie. Don't know why.
But, hey, we'd love for you to make your guesses at
our Facebook page, on our Facebook wall, at just search The Incredible Hoax on Facebook. And you can also email it to hope@redseatelevision.com.
Awesome.
And with that, my friends, we bid you a happy week, and I bid you adieu.
See everybody. Merry Christmas, by the way.
And by the way, people do watch this show. Just throwing it out there.
Keep watching